So I don't think there is any danger that parenthood has or will soften you. But you have changed in other ways over the last 2 years or so. Visually.
I mean, huge. I'm basically in an arms race with Catherine Ryan on plastic surgery. She brings a gun, I bring a knife. It's like...
We're talking about loss. Should we talk about Sean?
Thank you. It's nice. It's nice. It's a nice thing. It really reminded me of when my mother died. And I suppose there's a part of Sean that's kind of was a father figure. He was 10 years older than me, and he was an incredibly important figure in my life. And it wasn't until he died, really, that I acknowledged that I was sort of in a double act on TV. With him, we did like over 250 TV shows together. And I don't think anyone really made me laugh like him. And I think I've given it quite a lot of thought, obviously. I mean, after he died, the next day I was in bits. I was just, crying a lot and watching videos and laughing and crying and whatever, as you do. And then it really hit me the second day, physically. I got really sick. I got like a flu. I thought it was fucking COVID. And then I lost my voice. It was like my voice was really croaky. And I went to see this physio guy called Fabby, my physio guy. And I said, I've lost my voice. And he said, what's going on? And I said, I'm recently bereaved. He went, oh, right, yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah. You lose your voice because you've got nothing to say.
Oh, man.
And I really felt like the physical effect of it. And I think the way he made me laugh was because of the way Sean looked. Like if Sean turned up at your house and said, I'm here to fix your boiler, come right through, I'll make you a cup of tea, I imagine you take 5 sugars. He had the look of a working man, right? So but he was doing this very delicate, sort of flight of fancy, surreal comedy. So it's funny as fuck is exactly right. So he had this thing where everything was heightened because it was so left field. It was like this amazing ability to just catch me off guard. So, I mean, literally on Cats Does Countdown, I had to keep like tissues under my desk. 2 sets, one for him, one for Rachel. The Rachel thing's weird, like the Cats Countdown thing of like that show being something that me and Sean, at the time when we got pitched it, it was Channel 4 mashup, and they went, oh, will you do a version of Cats Does Countdown? And we both went, I mean, I guess it's better than Body Swap. What? Yeah, all right. So we agreed to do one. We made it 45 minutes long, the first one, and we thought, well, we're going to run out of idea after 20 minutes, but fine. And then it's just run, and people have really enjoyed it. And there's a lovely thing thinking about Sean now. There's that quote that you die twice. You die when you die, but you also die the last time someone says your name. And it feels like with all that stuff, all of his comedies out there, and people share it, and they still enjoy it, and they still laugh, and it feels like he's still with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice. It is a nice thing. It's lovely.
The nature of that double act that you had with Sean, do you think, like you said, he's kind of like a working class there to fix your boiler, do you think that was part of the dynamic between you as the kind of high status, or not even status, but like you're the upper class guy and the working class guy? Have you kind of thought about that?
I mean, weirdly, I think that is right, but I've never really given it much thought because I don't see myself as the upper class guy. I think I'm quite well spoken, and I certainly went to a very good university and all that stuff, but I was born, raised in Slough, and from Irish immigrant parents. I really felt Irish growing up. And I don't sort of present myself as Irish because I'm, what they refer to as a plastic paddy. Have we got proper Irish people in? Yeah. So I'm like a plastic paddy, got the Irish passport, Irish parents, first generation immigrant in the UK. So, I speak and present myself in this way. But just shows what you can do when you apply yourselves.
Before we move on from Sean, can you tell us, can you give us a little bit of the inside story of Carrot in a Box?
Sure. Picture the scene, the Cats Countdown. No, it was the Cats office, right? The regular 8 out of 10 cats. And we were doing a Christmas special, and we had made, I think, 20 episodes that year, and we were out of idea. And someone said, we've got this idea for a game show. They thought it was going to be an ITV game show called Carrot in a Box. They were, clearly on something. And they went, well, we could play that. It's Christmas, why don't we play games? And they pitched it to me and John Richardson and Sean Locke, and me and John went, I don't really think there's anything in it. And Sean went, we should do that. And then he did, and not only did he win, he psychologically destroyed John. I mean, ruined him, absolutely ruined him. I mean, it's such a fun show to make. I mean, obviously, I get asked all the time about Rachel on the show, which is an odd. Yeah, this is
Bloody
what I
hell.
get. I'll be in a hotel or a bar, whatever, late at night. Guys won't even say hello to me. They'll just come up to me and go, "Have you fucked Rachel Riley?" And you go, "Dude, yeah." But you've got to promise not to tell her. She just thinks she gets sleepy when she drinks. That's a joke, obviously. The thing with Rachel is we're legit really good friends. So whenever I write a joke about her or do a joke about her on stage, I always call her and go, all right, Rach, how's Pasha? How's the kids? All right, yeah? And I've just written a joke about you. Go on. Aww. It's about how I'd fuck your dad.
I'm kind of glad,
She's
I'm kind
so
of
cool.
relieved to know that she's on board with it.
Oh, she's totally cool, you know. Actually, so Susie Dent's great on the show as well. I mean, Christ, she can take a joke.
Something people in the UK might not know. We've all seen you like sort of judging roast battle on TV in the UK, but something people might not know is that you are kind of feared throughout Northern America as the undisputed champion of roast battles at the at the Montreal Comedy Festival. Every year they do like a sort of tournament, an invitational roast battle, and people quake in their boots. What's your secret to writing the perfect roast? What's the plan of attack?
I mean, so I like that. I mean, there's Roast Battle at UK here, which is a really fun show to do, but it's kind of not about them. It's just that thing of going, it's just about the joke. Writing good jokes is the thing, and then if you think of something funny, you have to say it. You're on your honor to say the funniest thing you can. I don't mind how cruel it might be perceived as. You got to go for it. I did one recently, actually. It was my friend's birthday. David Williams turned 50, and I did, and he asked me to say a few words. Now, what happened was, he'd opened the evening, like he gave a little speech at the beginning, welcoming all his friends and saying, it's great to have you here. And then he said at the end of his speech, he went, I'd just like to take a moment to thank the doctors and nurses that have worked tirelessly the last 18 months on Jimmy Carr's new face. So they opened with that. And then I had to, this is another name-dropping story, but I had to follow Elton John. So Elton John played at the party, and he didn't just play, he played beautifully. He did like Tiny Dancer, Rocket Man, and then your song. The 3 best songs, I mean, incredible. And then someone went, ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Carr. How the fuck do you follow that? So I went in quite reasonably hard. I said David Williams changed his name from Williams to Williams to get off that bloody register.
Jimmy, let's do some quick audience questions. So this, I don't know who wrote this one. Who would win in a fight, Rachel Riley or Susie Dent? Oh,
I'd split the room. It's difficult. I think let's just all take a moment to picture this. Everyone else has got a paddling pool and they're covered in mud, right? I don't know who would. I presume Susie Dent. She's wiry. Great question.
Have you got time for one more?
Yeah.
You've got an hour to live. What would you eat? Last song you'd listen to, and who would you sleep with? Brackets. It can't be your wife.
Rachel Riley is what I would eat. Great. There's a song that I posted when, not to be mawkish, but there's a song I posted when Sean died by Warren Zevon called Keep Me in Your Heart for a While. I think I would listen to that. Or there's another very good one by Death Cab for Cutie.
Which one?
Called I Will Follow You Into the Dark.
Yeah.
That's a good, if you've got an hour to listen to that, have a good old cry, and then, bunk the missus. Great. Rachel Riley again. Yes, okay. I told you, people are fucking obsessed. Stuart Goldsmith, everyone. Thank you very much. I hope that was fun. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. Great. Ta-da. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Good night. Right. My good friend Stuart Goldsmith is going to come out and he's going to interview me. And he's from the Comedian podcast. He's very good at this. What do you think? Yeah. Stuart Goldsmith, everyone. Give him a round of applause. Please. Very good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Thanks for doing this.
All right. So, should we start? Should we just jump in?
Why wouldn't we? What else?
Tell us about the book. Tell us about the book, because it's an autobiography, but it's not just an autobiography.
No, I did the obviously everyone got the call from the manager at the beginning of COVID going, you've got a choice. You can do a podcast or you can write a book, but you can't do nothing.
Why not podcasting?
Why not podcasting? I'm better than that, Stuart. No, I love a podcast, but I thought it was the right time as well. I've been in comedy for about 20 years. I thought I had I've been around long enough that I felt like an autobiography wouldn't be ridiculous. You know, sometimes when someone's been on, they were on, I don't know, Love Island for 3 weeks and you go, really, you've got a book out? Motherfucker, please. But I like the idea. 20 years in, I thought that was about right. And then I started to write it and realised that really what I wanted to write about was the self-help stuff that had allowed me to have a more interesting life.
Well, maybe we should change what we're talking about. Maybe I could ask you about how it felt to sort of write in the book, to really open up about your, shall we say, financial journey.
I mean, that is the nicest that question has ever been phrased. Yeah, I think if you bought a biography by me and I didn't mention being publicly shamed over tax, you would feel shortchanged. Very much like HMRC did. I mean, you've got to, listen, I did it, I held my hands up, I apologized, paid it back, but it couldn't have gone any worse. People are interested, I think, now in, do you want to know how much money I saved in tax? Yeah. Like the actual figure? Yeah. You interested to know? Yeah. Fuck all. Despite quite a lot of effort on my part. It couldn't have gone any worse. I'm the only person in this room, I'm confident saying it, the only person in this room that would have been better off financially taking advice from a Nigerian general over email. Every day's a school day, though. Something like that happens, and you learn a thing or two. You know, I've become quite the expert in tax. Oh, I'll give you advice on it right now. If you get a letter through from HMRC, do the responsible thing, pop it in the recycling. If the Prime Minister of the country that you live in breaks off from the G20 summit, he's in a meeting with the 19 most important people in the world, and he comes out early to a press conference where he talks about nothing other than your personal tax affairs, that is going to be a problem. Although, in my defence, I never fucked a pig.
Do you feel that you've been sort of forgiven by your following? Like this reaction now, do you feel that kind of seals a man shouting yes? Do you feel that speaks for your...
I think I got lucky because, you know, the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion, if you're not aware, about 18 months in prison. I came down on the right side of it was a dodgy thing to do, but it wasn't a legal thing to do. People were very forgiving. I tell you who was the nicest. Builders and black cab drivers. Like from building sites around London, oh, you've done nothing wrong, son. And every taxi driver, all right? Yeah, they fucking turned you over, didn't they? It's going to be cash though, isn't it?
What was the reaction amongst your colleagues in comedy?
I mean, it was the great thing was, you know, there's that lovely phrase, we cannot forgive what we cannot punish. It was quite easy for me to see what to do. Some people get cancelled over something and they don't know what to do and they won't be forgiven and it lasts forever. And for mine, it was like, pay it back, say sorry. Okay. And people were pretty nice about it, and I sort of took my medicine. I was on 8 out of 10 Cats this week. I was doing a topical comedy show about the most talked about things this week, and I was the most talked about thing. And often you credit comedians or people, the on-screen talent, with being clever, and I wasn't, but my producer was clever. My producer, Ruth Phillips, took me to one side and said, you've just got to take it. You've got to take your medicine and just let them rip into you and don't say a fucking word. Do not clap back. Best advice I ever got. Because Sean was on the show. He was fucking brilliantly funny. He said, everyone prepares for a rainy day. You're more set up than Noah. So good. I was among friends, and Mickey Flanagan was there. I mean, you know where Mickey's from. He's done a couple of scaffolding jobs for cash. Sarah Millican was so funny and so warm, and I felt like I was amongst friends. They ripped into me, and that was like being in the stocks. And tomatoes thrown at you, and you take your medicine, and you say sorry, and it's over, it's done. I mean, the effect on me long term was, it really hit me. I think a lot of people thought I was quite cool with it, like that I would be, because of the kind of comedy that I do, I'll be fine. My anxiety flared. I didn't sleep for about 4 or 5 days. I was taking some medication. I was zombie-like for the week, getting through it, and I felt like I was going to lose everything. And you sort of realize how much you like your life.
Yeah. And did you have people around you? Did you have people supporting you? Or did you ever feel like...
I mean, I had my yeah. I mean, you really find out who your friends are, which is awful in a couple of respects, where you thought, I thought that guy was a really close friend, and then they were kind of gleeful that you've been brought down a peg or two, and you go, But I'm not interested in fair weather friends. I'm not interested in people that are just there for that. I like a foul weather friend. I remember James Corden was doing One Man, Two Governors on Broadway when the story broke on the Monday. And he called me on the Monday night in his interval, like he's got 20 minutes off in this very physically demanding show. And he phoned me and just went, you all right? You all right? No one gives a fuck. You're fine. Still, we got you. You're fine. And I really needed to hear it. And it meant the absolute world. And then I said, oh, thanks, whatever. And then he called the next night and did the same thing. And again, you still need, and then the next night, and the next night. And I really felt cared for and looked after, and like, you've still got your mates. And you never forget that. And I suppose the lesson from that, and the thing that I put in the book is, if you've got someone that, a friend, a relative, whatever, that's going through hard times, call. I always call now on the day. And even if it's something embarrassing or weird, or you're not quite sure what to say, just phone a guy, I don't know what to say. It's so much better than not calling.
Your anxiety...
Thanks.
You mentioned there your anxiety, and that's something I just had no idea that you ever suffered from. You seem so impenetrable when you see you in these kind of high-status hosting roles on TV. And in the book, you talk about was it a lifelong battle with anxiety? You wake up anxious?
Not really. Yeah, I wake up at about 5 a.m. With a panic attack most days, more often than not, which isn't great. But people have got it worse than me. I don't need to medicate. I can kind of white knuckle it. I try and see how many people suffer with anxiety. By round of applause. Yeah. There's a lot of us, right? And the way that I see it is it's the kind of negative side of having a creative mind. So your mind is racing, so you're going to overthink things. And there's methods of kind of dealing with it. But I try and see it as a positive and go, look, all of the good stuff. Okay, so it comes with this as well, and that's okay. I think the more that people talk about it and share, the better. Because, the thing that every therapist should tell you, I kind of say it in the book, but every therapist should sit you down and go, there's other therapies, it's not just me. Because I'm not really interested in the Freudian sit on a couch and talk about your relationship with your mother. I know where it all comes from. So that thing of like, what am I going to do to deal with it? And that thing of like going, well, it could be CBT, or it could be NLP or something. Those therapies are available, and they're really sort of valuable and really work. And
you've really kind of walked the walk there. Like you describe from a really inside perspective how those different therapies have affected you, because you've done loads of that stuff. There was a moment, I wanted to ask you, there's a moment in the book where you refer to dancing the 5 rhythms during a thunderstorm. And I honestly couldn't tell whether that was you taking the piss out of hippie bullshit or a thing you've genuinely done.
I've done all that hippie bullshit.
You've done it?
All of Dancing the 5 Rhythms, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Beautiful experience. Walking on hot coals.
Okay.
Fucking nothing. Don't worry about it. Pointless exercise.
Is there good and bad therapy? Do you undergo a thing and go... Ugh.
I think there's a lot of therapy. The walking on coals thing is just to G's people up, but it doesn't specifically tell them what to do.
Okay.
So you get a lot of kind of excitement, but then what's the next step? What am I going to do next? And I'm much more into the therapy, and the stuff that I tried to put in the book was that stuff of going, okay, so what's tomorrow? What we doing next?
And are you motivated to write about it from the perspective of working through it for yourself as much as from the perspective of trying to help other people?
At the end of the book, I sort of do, right at the end, I sort of do a little summing up of like all the things. And I read it back and went, I do about half this shit about half the time. But I'd be a fucking superstar if I did it all. So part of the act of writing it is to kind of remind yourself, oh, actually, you should do more of this.
And there's something about your job, there's something about doing stand-up comedy and the fact that that relies upon having a healthy relationship with failure that probably, like that helps, right? That you can lean into the idea of failing, get comfortable with it.
Well, if there's any reason to kind of write the book, it's to kind of to get away from the Instagram world of perfection that people see, because all you see on Instagram and in the social media world is perfection. You see results. And you never see the hard work, and you never see the anxiety, you never see anything else. So stripping that away, I think, is quite important because it just seems impossible. I think there's a lot of young people that look at that stuff and just go, it's just a perfect world that I'm not part of, and I don't feel like that. I mean, you have this weird sensation now where people are sort of jealous of their online identity.
Yeah.
Because they're so sort of far removed from it. I'm always smiling in photos, but I don't feel that way inside. And there's a mental health crisis with young people because that world is being portrayed. And people can't live up to it. They can't possibly live up to it. Yeah, it's terrible, right? I think I talk in the book about, quite arrogantly, about comedian superpowers, the things that comedians do better than anyone else. And one of the things is failure. We're really good with failure. Because, you know, if you're trying jokes, I've written more jokes that don't work than anyone else in the room. Maybe you, but, you know, we write a lot of jokes. That wasn't a dig. But that thing of like, I've written so many jokes that don't work. I've pitched so many shows that didn't get made. I've failed more at comedy than anyone else. And that's what led me to success. And, you know, like owning that failure and like being proud of your failures and like that's the kind of battle-worn thing. That's a great way to live. That's a great way to kind of, just to think about it differently.
Can you teach someone, or could you teach yourself to get better at failing, to become more comfortable with failure?
Yeah, you fail in. I mean, the trick is not to fail the same way every time. You fail differently every time, and then eventually you sort of practice so much you kind of practice till you can't get it wrong. Yeah, that's.
Can you give us an example of something you fucked up recently?
I fuck up things all the time. I think owning it's quite an important thing. I've got a couple of stories about, like, in the book as well, about, like, fucking up and owning it and being responsible, and that seems to work. And okay, it's a story. I told it on the news recently, but I'll tell you. So I went to test drive a Tesla. I didn't go to test drive a Tesla. I went to the shopping mall because it was raining. But I was bored, and me and Caroline just thought, all right, we'll go to the shops. Went to Westfield, this big shopping centre in Shepherd's Bush. There's a store in there. We've got coffee and food and stuff. We're looking around the shops. There's a store that sells Tesla cars. And I'm amused, because I'm from a different generation, that you can buy a car in a shopping mall. That seems dumb to me. So I went in there and got chatting to the guy. There's a really charming guy in there. And he went, would you want to take one for a test drive? And I went, what now? And he went, yeah, we go right now. And I went, yeah, let's do this. It's exciting. And then we went down. It's one of these ones with the gull wing, like Star Trek doors. It's cool. And we get in it, and Caroline's next to me, and we're whizzing around. It's like a go-kart. They run like go-karts, right? It's really fast talk. I like it. I don't need a car. I've got a car. Don't need a car. Just a bit of fun. I told the guy that. Fine. So we're driving around Shepherd's Bush. Great, this is lovely. Thanks very much. Better get back. And we got back into Westfield. If you've been there, it's fucking enormous. And we got lost in the basement. And so the guy from Tesla goes, oh, right, if I move those cones over there, with just the charging stations over there, we're going to be golden. So he gets out and he moves 5 cones, and so I can drive through. And obviously he's 20 yards over that way, so I just go, well, I'll go and collect him. I hadn't realised his door was open, hit the door on a gantry, hit the door, took the door off. It was hanging by one bit of cable, so it was like the Terminator, but it wasn't dead yet. It still had the light in its eyes. And the guy's I couldn't see that because I was in the car until I got out. So I was just looking at his face going, oh, that's not good. You know that look you get when you've knocked the door off a brand new Tesla? That look. And I just unwound the window and went, I'll take one. Obviously not this one. This one's fucked. So I now own a Tesla.
On the subject of failure and coping, I guess, one of the things you said in the book that really stayed with me is you said, take the worst thing that your inner critic says, walk back the cruelty, and you'll find the truth about you. So with that in mind, take the worst thing your inner critic says, walk back the cruelty, and find the truth. What's the worst thing your inner critic says to you?
I think I could be better. I think I've got a lottery ticket. Like that thing I was saying about luck. I think you sort of make your own luck, and it's hard work and application. And the talent thing is like that. Just is the illusion. That's what you see. I think I could be better. I think I could work at it harder. And I think coming out of the pandemic, I'm trying to rewrite the show and write better material and change up my style a little bit. I'd like to be one of the greats. I'm not, but I'd like to be. And so that true north is like you're sort of aiming for this thing of going. It's also, comedy's like a task without end. Because you can always get better. You could always be funnier. You could always be a bit sharper. And changing stylistically from doing one-liner stories to slightly longer form stories is like, it's a really interesting thing that I'm working on. I'm working with my friend Amanda Baker at the moment, who's here, who sort of directs my live show and also sort of directed the book, was pushing me to tell more stories and do more things. And I think working with someone is really valuable and just trying to get better. I think your inner critic is always going to go, well, look, this could be funnier.
Is it possible to continually be striving and yet be satisfied at the same time? If you're always wanting to be something better than you are, like if you're not satisfied with the sort of the very high level that you've achieved.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned, but this is a self-help book, so I have to say in it 5 times. That's the legal requirement. It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, right.
I like being a comic. I like the road. I like doing gigs. I like performing for you this evening. You
like the showbiz parties.
I love
Here's a question. Louis C.K., at the end of Louis C.K.'s latest special, he thanks you. What was that for, and are you close?
Yeah, we're friends, and I don't think anyone is the worst thing they ever did. I think if you're friends with me, you're friends with me, and that's for life. And I guess it was for that.
Fair dues. On to the 4 people trying to start a round of applause, then giving up. Oh, fair.
Fine. Yeah, I think that's probably an example of being not to blow my own trumpet, but to be a foul weather friend is a magnificent thing to be.
Serious one here. Garden, mushy, or petit pois?
I'm going to go petit pois. I'm going to go petit pois because that guy is such a fucking... he's brilliant. I don't know what's the matter with him. I'd go with a mushy pea. I'm going mushy pea with the fish and chips. Yeah.
Working class roots. There we are. Were you the funny... This is verbatim. Were you the funny fucker at school or a big girly swat?
Actually, great question, because I was both. You're 16, right? Yeah, you're 16. When I was 16, I changed schools. And you become acutely aware, and I think this is a great thing in life, you become aware you are a story you tell yourself. Like, I don't believe in an afterlife, but I believe in a next life, because it's happened to me a couple of times. When I was 16, I moved schools, and I went from being quite a tearaway. A lot of friends from that school ended up in prison or in a lot of trouble. A lot of them didn't make it, some of them died. It was a rough school. And then I moved to a better school and reinvented myself and went, yeah, I'm going to be an academic and go to Cambridge. And I did it with my job. I had a boring job, and then I reinvented myself as a comic. And I'm still the same guy, but you can be different things you can't beat your environment. And sometimes changing environments changes everything. And by environment, I mean not just the place you are, but the people you're with, who you're surrounded with. And when I found the comedy environment, when I surrounded myself with those people, I liked who I was more, and so I stayed there.
Who's your best mate? Who do you hang out with? Are they famous or just a normie?
Wow, that's a very good question. Normal people, I remember them.
It is. It's funny you do mention once or twice in the book some of like old friends. I find it's quite hard to visualize you hanging out with a mate you went to school with
Lot of
that
my-
isn't Stephen Hawking or Elton John or something?
A lot of my close friends are slightly kind of father figurey when I analyse it.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who's like a professor of biotech. Take the fucking vaccine, you idiot. I've got a friend who's a biotech guy in property. A lot of kind of older guys. I mean, yeah, I've got lots of close friends. I've got some that are in the business, some that aren't in the business. But yeah, I value friendship above all, I think. It's it's fantastic. Because love is unconditional. You have to love certain people. But friendship is conditional.
Let's talk about the most important people in your life, which is, of course, the audience. And let's talk about the particular... well, they pay your bills, don't they?
They pay my bills. Yeah, they do. You're beautiful people. But I can't just go, yes, my audience.
Well, what I want to talk about is specifically your relationship with them. You're the only comic who I've ever seen have like a heckle amnesty. And you're known throughout comedy, really, not just in this country, in America, everything. You are known as someone who just invites heckles and is just unbeatable with hecklers.
Wanker. Feels like you're going to have to do better than that. Yeah, I love heckles, but I love that thing of like going, if you've got an audience, like, and I'm very lucky, I'm not playing the clubs anymore. When you come up through the clubs, it can be quite combative because people haven't paid to see you, you're trying to win them over. When people have bought a ticket to your show, you go, well, that's your crowd, and they've got the same sense of humor as you. So even if someone shouts something abusive, you go, it's with love. You're shooting for funny. Great. So it's like taking it on that kind of basis and then enjoying it, and then sometimes the great thing is, sometimes the heckler wins, and that's fine too. Because if it's funny, I remember like being heckled in Edinburgh at Late and Live, which is a gig that doesn't start till 1 a.m. I mean, it's ridiculous. Everyone's hammered drunk. And it was quite early on. I've been doing comedy about 2 years. I was doing this gig, and it was like a big deal even to get booked on it. You're doing 20 minutes. I was about 15 minutes in, and I was doing great. I was really pleased with how I was doing. And a guy, just like in the middle of a joke, like halfway through a line, a guy just went, "My mum died of cancer." It's like, what the fuck is going on? I went, well, I wasn't talking about mums, and I wasn't talking about cancer. And he went, no, but it was funnier than this. Oh. The thing of like shouting stuff out is so good. I mean, I think some of my favourites weren't at comedy shows. I think my favourite ever heckle was at a tennis match. But just some guy in the crowd, I wish I could meet him and shake his hand. So I go and see a lot of tennis. I'm obsessed by tennis. It's my sport. I love it. Actually, my tennis coach is in. Santa's in somewhere. Hi, Santa. I'd love going to see tennis. So I was at Queen's Club. It's got to be 20 years ago now, and I was watching a British player, who shall remain Tim Henman. And he's a great player and a wonderful man, but he was not covering himself in glory on this occasion. He was playing shite. So we're watching the game. I don't know if you watch a lot of tennis, but it's proper man sport. So when they're finished with a couple of games, they come in, they have a little sit down, they eat half a nana, they think about what they've done. As I say, it's a fucking man sport. So as Tim Henman's walking in to have the sit down, a guy in the crowd, not me, just a punter in the crowd goes, "There's a bit of shit at the end of your rackets." And he looked. And the bloke went, "Not that end." "Yes, please, more like that."
I love...
So good.
I just love the appreciation you have for like the elements of that. Just like, poetry.
The fact that he had to wait for it to drop.
Yeah.
I mean, the other one I loved was like, wasn't really a heckle. I had a mate that was doing a gig in Edinburgh. It was like, again, late at night, everyone's drunk, but it was above a pub. Like, there's about 20 people in a function room above a pub. 20 people, 12:30 at night, everyone's plastered. And this guy, he's a funny bloke, actually. I won't mention his name, but he was dying on his arse, like horrific death. And a guy didn't heckle to be nasty, but just turned to his friend and whispered, and it just carried. He just went, "There used to be a pool table in here."
That's so brutal. It's so subtle.
You know what, let's do a few more, like,
Well, I wanted to ask you about like the emotional state you're in when you're inviting heckles, all that stuff. But now I just want to hear all your favourite heckles that anyone's ever done.
Well, the late great Ken Dodd.
Oh yeah.
And Ken Dodd is, he's an amazing performer. Gigged to the end of his life as well. I've loved him. Also, evaded quite a lot of tax. He was cleared by a jury of his peers in Liverpool. Make of that what you will. You know, Ken Dodd stood up in a court of law being charged for tax evasion. They found a room full of money in his house. He hadn't paid tax in 40 years. It was unbelievable. So, nothing but respect for him. So there's a money, and he said, this is so good, Ken Dodd, he said, I didn't think I had to pay the inland revenue because I live by the sea. Also, he received, I think, maybe the greatest ever heckle, the hardest thing to come back from. So he's at the Glasgow Empire, which is famously, back in the day, the hardest room to play. And he was playing it on an old firm day. So Celtic and Rangers have played. That's the roughest day in the roughest town in Great Britain. It's Glasgow at its absolute best and worst, depending on your view. So he's on stage. People, fake illness to not go on stage. He went on. He's destroying. The people are just in tears, laughing, rolling. He's amazing, force of nature, in the height of his powers. And a guy, front and centre, there's a massive laugh and a lull, and Ken Dodd's just about to do the next line, and the guy goes, "It's all very funny if you like laughing." The fuck do you say to that?
Something people in the UK might not know. We've all seen you like sort of judging roast battle on TV in the UK, but something people might not know is that you are kind of feared throughout Northern America as the undisputed champion of roast battles at the at the Montreal Comedy Festival. Every year they do like a sort of tournament, an invitational roast battle, and people quake in their boots. What's your secret to writing the perfect roast? What's the plan of attack?
So I like that. There's Roast Battle at UK here, which is a really fun show to do, but it's kind of not about them. It's just that thing of going, it's just about the joke. Writing good jokes is the thing, and then if you think of something funny, you have to say it. You're on your honour to say the funniest thing you can. I don't mind how cruel it might be perceived as. You got to go for it. I did one recently, actually. It was my friend's birthday. David Williams turned 50, and I did, and he asked me to say a few words. Now, what happened was, he'd opened the evening, he gave a little speech at the beginning, welcoming all his friends and saying, it's great to have you here. And then he said at the end of his speech, he went, I'd just like to take a moment to thank the doctors and nurses that have worked tirelessly the last 18 months on Jimmy Carr's new face. So they opened with that. And then I had to, this is another name-dropping story, but I had to follow Elton John. So Elton John played at the party, and he didn't just play, he played beautifully. He did like Tiny Dancer, Rocket Man, and then your song. The three best songs, incredible. And then someone went, ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Carr. How the fuck do you follow that? So I went in quite reasonably hard. I said David Williams changed his name from Williams to Williams to get off that bloody register. And then I said he's always impeccably dressed. I'm not surprised he spent that long in the fucking closet.
What's the kind of, because the culture of roast jokes is to say the unsayable. What's the most unsayable joke you've ever gotten away with?
I got in trouble with Fox News for doing a joke. I was like the number 3 story on the news. I did one of the Comedy Central roasts. I did the roast of Rob Lowe. There was a lady on it called Ann Coulter, who's a right-wing commentator, big Trump supporter. She's sort of like their Piers Morgan. So I did a joke about Ann Coulter, which was, I think the joke was, Ann Coulter is the most repugnant, hateful, hatchet-faced bitch alive, but it's not too late to change, Ann. You could kill yourself.
Did you do that little dance afterwards?
Yeah. I know, I was looking directly at her. I followed it with Ann Coulter's pussy is so old and dry, it just got a job drawing cartoons for the New Yorker. No, I got in trouble for that, but that definitely wasn't the worst thing I said that night.
That wasn't the worst thing you said?
Well, no, because Pete Davidson was on the show.
Oh, God.
Who's a mate of mine. He's on Saturday Night Live. Wonderful comic, but his father died in 9/11. He's one of the firefighters that went into the building and was trying to save people as they collapsed. And I said, I really dressed it up as well. I went, I'm appalled that people would come here and make jokes about the sacrifice Pete's heroic father made on 9/11. This is not the roast of Pete Davidson's father. That was in 2001.
How did Pete react?
I mean, he's a broken man. No, he was fine. He's absolutely fine. I tried it the night before, actually, in the Comedy Store in LA, which is one of my favorite clubs in the world. And I did it, and like the audience was like, your reaction was like, oh, and there was one guy at the back, like, fucking hell, he's laughing loud. Oh, Pete. Of course.
What was your first memory of comedy, and when did stand-up really take off for you?
I think my first ever gig was the Tut and Shive, an old pub in Islington. Did 5 minutes, literally in a room above a pub to about 15 people, and it was the start of something. I felt it was like so important to me. And if anyone in here, and there'll be some people in here that are thinking, I might try stand-up, or I'd love to give that a go sometime, I would caution, try it. Just do 5 minutes, because if it doesn't become your career, at minimum, it'll increase your enjoyment of stand-up tenfold, because you'll get to appreciate it a bit more. It's an amazing hobby to have if you don't do it as a job. And if you do it as a hobby, who knows? There'll be people in here, I mean, fucking Ashley's 16, who knows? He's shouting shit out. Maybe not, but you know.
Here's a question. Louis C.K., at the end of Louis C.K.'s latest special, he thanks you. What was that for, and are you close?
Yeah, we're friends, and I don't think anyone is the worst thing they ever did. I think if you're friends with me, you're friends with me, and that's for life. And I guess it was for that.
Fair dues. On to the 4 people trying to start a round of applause, then giving up. Oh, fair.
Fine. Yeah, I think that's probably an example of being not to blow my own trumpet, but to be a foul with a friend is a magnificent thing to be. Stuart Goldsmith, everyone. Thank you very much. I hope that was fun. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Great. Ta-da! Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Good night.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Carr. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. Now, there's a scientific theory that states you laugh 30 times more when you're in a room with other people than when you're watching something on a screen. So why not come and see me live? It's jimmycarr.com for tickets, and I'm pretty much everywhere. See you then.